Earlier this year, we visited Foncombeau Abbey in France and bought this little clay sign made by one of the monks. Here I am hanging it above the front door of our new house that we're in the process of moving into. It simply reads Pax, the Latin word for peace. It calls to mind the words of Jesus in the Gospel of John when he says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give it to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled or afraid." And boy howdy would this verse continue to poke my conscience in the coming days and weeks. How am I not supposed to let my heart be troubled at the sight of this garage and the state of the layout, on top of all the moving nonsense? The first order of business was just to move things to other places so I would have some space to walk around the table. Of course, those things will get moved again so they can get moved again, and then moved again so they can be moved again. This is the miserably vicious cycle of moving that some of you may be familiar with. I began unpacking the operating accessories that I had removed from the table, such as the 97 coal elevator, the icing station, water tower, and the gantry crane. And then I began unloading all the rolling stock and cardboard boxes onto these shelves in the best impromptu and artistic organization I could manage. I must say, this is when it pays off to go the vintage post-war route, because I would be far less worried about transporting these rugged and sturdy cars and accessories in moving boxes as opposed to the much more delicate modern scale stuff. It was stressful enough driving down the highway with my KD ST70 and Santa Fe Northern, and wincing every time there was even the smallest bump. And that's only 2 modern scale pieces. Anyways, all was going well until I spotted this dark square at the bottom of a box, which turned out to be damp, wet cardboard. Turns out there was one evening where we forgot to close the garage door, and during the night a sustained torrential downpour rained on us, and of course I had put my boxes of train stuff right near the edge of the door. The rust on this tender will certainly be a cleaning project, and of course nightmares formed in my head of what other pieces might look like, but for the time being I just wanted to get them out of the boxes. Or as Scarlett O'Hara would say, since I'm currently reading Gone with the Wind, "I won't think about that now, I'll think about that tomorrow when I can stand it." Fortunately, the passenger station, sawmill, and oil derrick appeared to be free of damage, and so I happily returned them to their spots on the table. So perhaps I spoke too soon about the ruggedness of these pieces, because I was internally mortified as I moved through boxes containing different things, wondering if the moisture had caused even the slightest damage, even if nothing was directly rained on. I carefully inspected everything as it came out of their box, and eventually it was time for the moment of truth for my prized post-war motive power, starting with the Santa Fe 2343s. I first looked for moisture inside the bubble wrap, and then cut open the layers and looked for any rust. I immediately took back all the regrets I had earlier about overpacking these engines. As I pulled the bubble wrap back, I could see no beads of moisture on the shell, and the chassis was clean and clear of rust. But just check out how wet this cardboard was, and yet no visible damage to the 2343s. Thanks be to God. Next was my 224E, and fortunately this box did not appear as soaked as the previous. The engine looked clear and free of rust, which was therefore a good sign for the 736 Berkshire, which was in the same box. Admittedly, what ended up being the first thing I really checked was that both marker lights were still intact, and seeing that they were gave me a huge sigh of relief. Bumpy roads and Kansas thunderstorms were no match for mid-century American manufacturing. Next was the real deal orange peel moment of truth to see if everything still ran, and that nothing internal was damaged in transit. It was time to pull out the absurdly large CWL and get it wired up. And this time I made sure to be prepared, and I labeled my wires with massive pieces of tape and thick Sharpie denoting which block it applied to. I plugged in the transformer, hit the power switch, turned the throttles, and lo and behold, nothing happened. And if something did happen, it was a short. I began inspecting my posts on the back of the transformer, and then realized a silly case of literally crossing one's wires. A hasty fix, despite labeling everything with my gigantic pieces of tape and bold Sharpie, led to the welcome relief that my engines still worked as they should. And with this little moment of pox restored after my brief panic, I let the lower loop run for a bit. But not all was done yet. I still have my shelf queen pieces to take care of, the Katy SD70 and Santa Fe Northern. Fortunately, in this prime, glorious spot of mantle real estate that was basically shouting that all its life it had waited for this moment to display a train, and with the approval of my wife no less, my Santa Fe Northern and Katy SD70 would reside up here. A mantle like this may have served well for plants, but fortunately, it's in the basement, so it's not visible to polite company, nor does it even receive sunlight. These engines will not be static display pieces forever, though. I've recently joined the Wichita Toy Train Club, and will take these engines down to their extraordinary museum layout to run periodically. Now, that's a video to come that promises to be good. Anyways, with the telescoping smokestack in place just like the real 3768 right here in town, it was time to pause the madness there. Until an impulsive 11 p.m. scenery spree that would follow. But that's all for now. Normally this is where I would say more to come, but you already know what's coming next. Thanks for watching. Pox.